Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing an Ursarctic deck profile. So I'm really excited for this one because this one does a play on something that they did in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, when they would Dark Synchro Summon, where you would take the level in between the two monsters and actually use that level to Synchro Summon instead of adding the two levels together, which is a very interesting concept. For example, if I have a level 7 and a level 8 monster on my field, then I can special summon a level 1 from my extra deck in place, which is kind of neat. I really like the way that this deck plays. It's really fun to be able to play with, and it's actually Space Bears. I mean, how much better can it get? It's Space Bears. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell near so you can come part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name description every single video, getting a signed card sent in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron along with test hand. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Ursarctic Megapolar. Megapolar is really good in this deck. It's the only one that I actually play as a 3 of, and it's probably one of the best ones because during your main phase, you can quick effect tribute one other level 7 or higher monster from your hand to special summon this card from your hand. Also, you can't special summon monster rest turn except monsters with levels, which is fine because we pretty much only play monsters with levels anyways. We do play a couple of monsters that are link monsters in the deck, but you only play 2 of them, so everything else is synchros. And if this card is special summoned, you get to add an Ursarctic monster from your deck to your hand, which is really good. And then play 2 copies of Megatanus. 2 Megatanus is the way that I like to roll with this deck. It has the same ability that you can tribute a level 7 or higher monster, special summon this card from your hand. But when this card is special summoned, you get to target one Ursarctic monster in your graveyard and add it back to your hand, which is a pretty good effect. I then play 2 copies of Megapolar. Megapolar is a really, really good card for this deck. And it has the ability that during your main phase, you can tribute one other level 7 or higher monster from your hand to special summon this card, but you can't special summon anything except for monsters with level for the rest of the turn. And if this card is special summoned while you control another Ursarctic monster, you can target one spell or trap your opponent controls and destroy it. So it's basically a walking MST, which is really, really nice. It reminds me a little bit of Hieratic Dragon of Su, because you get to tribute a monster to be able to special summon this card from your hand, which is pretty good. We then play 2 copies of Megatanus. Megatanus is also a pretty decent card. I like a Megapolar better. I feel like the Polar ones are a lot better than the Tanus ones. And it has the ability that you get to, also, if this card is special summoned, while you control another Ursarctic monster, you can target one monster your opponent controls, and you Book of Moon it and switch it into face down defense. I then only play a single copy of Ursarctic Megabeelus, or Beels, I think it's Beels. But basically what this card does is you get to, if this card is special summoned while you control another Ursarctic monster, you get to target one card your opponent's graveyard and banish it, which is pretty good on a quick effect special summon monster with 2800 attack. I like that effect a little bit too much in this deck to drop it out, because originally I was just going to play 3, 2, 2, 2, 1, and originally I was just going to do 3, 2, 2, and 2, and then not play any of these. But I really kind of like playing it as a 1-of. It helps out a little bit for the deck, and it is an extra tuner for the deck too, because all the rare ones are tuners, all the megas are tuners, and all the mechas are actually not tuners. So you actually have the 8s and the 7s, so then you can go into the 1s, which is kind of weird for me to get around, that you use 8 plus 8 minus 7 to equal 1 in this deck, which is kind of weird for synchro summoning, because it's kind of like synchro summoning but backwards. So that's pretty much it for the Ursarctics. For the other engine that we're using, I went with the Atlantean engine for this particular deck because I feel like the Atlantean engine is the best one for this build. There is a lot of ways that you can build this deck. You can actually throw in Gen X cards in this deck, which I consider doing. You can build it that way, where it's a little bit more focused around summoning to Zulkin, and that's a pretty good option. And I even thought about trying to build it with Heretics. I thought about doing it that way, but ultimately I kind of just landed on the Deep Sea Atlantean package because I felt like it was the best one for this particular deck. So for going first, we're going to play 3 copies of Neptibus. Neptibus is really good because you get to send an Atlantean from your deck to the graveyard, and then you get to add an Atlantean from your deck to your hand, which is really good on normal summon because it's going to get you your copy of Dragoons, which is the only copy of the other Atlantean that we play. You can, if you want to play the copy of the Poseidra, you can play Poseidra because it'll get you a level 8 in your hand to go off, but the deck is so tight. You can play it at 41 if you want to and play Poseidra. It would probably help out the deck a little bit, but it's totally up to you. I'm currently playtesting like this and loving the consistency this way, and I don't want to play too many bricks. But basically what your copy of Dragoons does is it has the ability that when this card is sent to the graveyard to activate a water monster's effect, you get to send a sea serpent, or you get to add a sea serpent from your deck to your hand, which you have a lot of different sea serpents in the deck to search. Going off of the first one, we play 3 copies of Deep Sea Diva. When this card's normal summon, you can special summon a level 3 or lower sea serpent from the deck, which is great to go ahead and normal summon this card and then grab your copy of Neptibus, and then Neptibus will go off and get your more plays. I play 3 copies of Deep Sea Maestral. Maestral is really good because it has the ability that you can discard this in another water monster, look at your opponent's hand, and banish a card, which is pretty good. 1 copy of Aria or Artisan. Artisan's really good because if this card's added from your deck or graveyard to your hand by a water monster's effect, and reveal this card, look at your opponent's hand, and if this card is special summon, you can send the top card of your opponent's deck to the graveyard and then target a level 4 or lower water monster in your graveyard except another copy of itself and special summon it but negate its effects. I really like this card as a 1-of in here, and it comes in pretty handy. 1 copy of Moral Inglacia. The Moral Inglacia comes in ridiculously handy because you can special summon it really easily. This deck is kind of like Mermails in an aspect that it's really easy to get the exact levels that you need in the graveyard, and it plays very similarly to Mermails actually, with the Atlantean package. We then play a single copy of Lapis Dragon. I cannot emphasize how important this card is in this deck, because what this card does is if this card's added from your deck to your hand, you reveal it and special summon it, which is ridiculously good in this deck because you're going to special summon this card to your side of the field where you go full Auroradon combo, and you can go into Borreload Savage really fast with this card. So this card is extremely important. 1 copy of Colt Wing. Colt Wing is really good because it's going to give you 2 tokens when you summon it off the copy of Auroradon, which is really helpful. 1 copy of Despot 01. The Despot 01 is here because it's going to go with your copy of your Auroradon and Needle Fiber, which is super helpful. And then I play a single copy of the Ancient and Ascendant. Now the reason you play this, and a lot of people kind of don't understand this card, but the reason you play this is because you play Herald of the Arclight in the extra deck as a stepping stone piece, because you can use the Herald of the Arclight to actually synchro summon into this, and then you climb from Herald of the Arclight into another synchro monster. And then when the Herald of the Arclight touches the graveyard, it will actually search you this card, and since it's level 7, you can actually use it to special summon out your copy of your Ursarctic monsters, which is pretty helpful for the deck. So that's another reason why I don't play the Poseidra, is because I play this instead of playing Poseidra. But you can fit it in here if you want to. Maybe by dropping 1 Dragoons. You could drop 1 Dragoons and play a Poseidra if you want to go that route, or you could just make the deck a 41 card deck. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of 1 for 1 because the 1 for 1 is going to get us into a copy of our Neptibus extremely quickly. 1 copy of Foolish Burial. The Foolish Burial just sends to the graveyard cards that we need when we need them. We play 3 copies of Ursarctic. Departure. Departure is ridiculous for a searcher. It reminds me of Pendulum Call. You discard a card to add 2 Ursarctic monsters from your deck to your hand. And if you attribute to tribute summon a monster, if you attribute monsters to activate an Ursarctic monster's effect, which is going to be to special summon them from your hand, and this card was sent to the graveyard. Except turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish the card instead. So basically gives you a free special summon of an Ursarctic, which is really good. I really like that. I'm only playing double Slider. Again, the deck was very, very tight, so I kind of dropped the copy of the 3rd Slider. This card's really good. It lets you target 1 Ursarctic monster that's banished or in your graveyard and special summon it, but you can't attack, and it's destroyed during the end phase. And then for the rest of the turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters except Ursarctic with a level, or except monsters with levels. You can't attack with that particular monster, but you can still attack with the rest of them, so it's still pretty good as kind of like a revival card. It's pretty much Monster Reborn, but searchable. I played 2 copies of Ursarctic Big Dipper. I like playing double Big Dipper because I feel like it's very necessary to get to this card, and so I play it at 2. Yes, I know that the level 1 Synchro monster searches it, but I still feel like this is really good because it lets you once per turn, if your Ursarctic monster would tribute monsters to activate its effect, you can banish a level 7 or higher Ursarctic from your graveyard instead, and each time a monster is special summoned, you place a counter on this card, and then once per turn, if a monster is special summoned and an Ursarctic Synchro monster is on the field, then you remove all counters from this card, minimum 7, and then target 1 monster your opponent controls and take control of it, which is really good. Like, I really like that effect. It doesn't even target that, like, it's just so... It does target, which is unfortunate, but if it didn't target, this card would definitely be it probably still a 2 of. I wish it didn't, but overall, it's still really good to get to this card. We then play 3 copies of Deep Sea Aria. Deep Sea Aria is basically here because you can banish water from your grave to add a level 4 or lower sea serpent from your deck to your hand, which is your Deep Sea Divas, your copies of your Neptibus, your copies of Dragoons, any of those cards. It's just going to get you those cards from your deck to your hand so you can then start popping off. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing the big boss monster of Ursarctic at 2. This card is really, really good. I really love this card. It's actually the reason I wanted to play this deck because this card is so good. And I'm going to really briefly read the effect to you guys so you can understand how you actually synchro this, because it does require a tuner and a non-tuner, but it's really weird how you actually synchro summon. It's like dark synchro summoning, if you've ever seen that in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. So if you haven't seen that, let's go over that effect. What this card does is it cannot be synchro summoned. It must be special summoned from your hand, from your extra deck, by sending 2 monsters you control with a level difference of 7. So basically, I would have to have on my side of the field a level 1 and a level 8 on my side of the field, which is going to be any of your other Ursarctic monsters, like a copy of, say, let's just use Moreland Glacia as a, for example. Let's just use Moreland Glacia. So a Moreland Glacia is a level 8, and the level difference between these 2 monsters is going to be 7. So you can use these 2 monsters to go into your copy of your card because the level difference is 7, which is still pretty cool. I like the way the deck plays. It's super weird that you actually synchro summon like that, but basically 1 level 8 or higher monster and 1 non-tuner synchro monster, and negate the effects of all face-up monsters without a level that were special summoned from the extra deck. And if your opponent special summons a monster except during the damage step, you can add an Ursarctic card from your deck to your hand, which is pretty amazing. We then play a single copy of Grand Chariot. I just like to play 1 Grand Chariot. I probably wouldn't play it in any build at any more than 1. Basically what it does is you get to, if this card is special summoned, you can target 2 cards on the field and destroy them, and then once per turn, when a card or effect is activated that targets an Ursarctic you control, quick effect, you contribute a monster from your hand or field and negate the activation of that card, which is pretty good. I like that effect. We then play 3 copies of Polaire. Polaire is pretty good as well. This card is going to be your main playmaker to go into your copies of your Ursarctic other synchro monsters. But basically, this card has the ability that it can't be special summoned, it must be special summoned from your extra deck by sending 2 monsters that you control with a different level, or level difference of 1 to the graveyard, 1 tuner and 1 non-tuner. And if this card is special summoned, then you can activate the effect to immediately grab a Big Dipper directly from your deck. And then also you contribute 1 level 7 or higher monster to add from your deck to your hand, or special summon an Ursarctic monster from the graveyard, which can help you out quite a lot in this deck. I then play a single copy of White Aura Bahamut because as the game goes on, this card gets better because it generates tokens, which is really nice. If this card you control, it has the ability that during your main phase, when this card is synchro summoned, you can special summon 1 Divine Dragon token that is a fish, water, 10, 33, 3000 in defense position. So basically it duplicates itself. And then once during your opponent's turn, while you control no tokens, quick effect, you can special summon another Divine Dragon token. And if this card you control is destroyed by an opponent's card effect and sent to the graveyard, while you control a Divine Dragon token, you can special summon this card back in defense. So they have to deal with the token, and you constantly are generating tokens. I play a single copy of the Virtual World because it banishes everything, which is really nice. One copy of Geomathmech Magma. So this card is really important in this deck because this card is really good, and it has the ability that it is a level 8 tuner monster, which comes in really handy when you play your level 1 monsters in the deck, because it helps you go into your Ursarctic synchro monsters, because you do 1 plus 8, or 1 minus 8 is 7, so the level difference is 7, so you can go into this. So this card is extremely important to be able to go into in this deck. We'll copy of Borreload Savage because it gives you additional negates on your field, and then I play for the other cards that we're going to be playing in the deck. We're playing a single copy of Deep Sea Prima Donna. Prima Donna is really good in the deck too. She has some really good synergy with the other Deep Sea cards. 1 copy of Coral Dragon because it's a synchro tuner monster. 1 copy of Herald of the Arclight because it's easy to summon Herald of the Arclight on your side of the field, and any monster sent from the main deck to the graveyard is banished instead. And when this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add a ritual monster, ritual spell, which is why we play that ritual monster in the deck. 1 copy of Auroradon for the insane Auroradon combo, and a single copy of Hulk Fibrax, or Needle Fiber for what I always call it, which is really good to get you out your tuner monsters on your side of the field. So that's pretty much it for the deck, guys. It's a very synchro heavy deck. It's super fun to be able to play around with. I really like playing this deck. It's really weird and has some cool combos in it. to be able to really pop off. Usually you can end with like 2 to 3 synchro monsters on your side of the field and Immoral and Glacia to rip your opponent's hand for 3. So it's pretty good. Like, the deck is actually really good in what it can do, and I really look forward to seeing what this deck can do in the future. So anyways, guys, this is Dark Arm Duels. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can come part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name searched every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month as your patron, along with test hands. And we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.